Welcome everyone to today's program. It is a film discussion about the movie Shkheynim, or Neighbors, which is a Polish film that is dubbed in Yiddish. And today's workshop is co-sponsored by both YIVO and the International Association of Yiddish Clubs. My name is Julia Rothkopf. I am the program associate at YIVO, as well as the co-president of the International Association of Yiddish Clubs. Today's program is really exciting. It is one that I have never done before in my time at YIVO or IOIC, and it's a celebration. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So I am going to turn it over to my IOIC co-president, Barbara Goldstein, who will say a few words.
Hartelijk Dank. So seid begrüßt und Baruch haba. So before Dr. Joseph Weissman speaks to us about the film Shkheynim, I would like to roll a few credits, thank a number of people. So a Shkheynim Dank to YIVO for graciously and generously hosting this event, to YIVO Public Programs Associate and IAYC Co-President Julia Rothkopf for her wonderful leadership and her technical prowess, to IAYC Board Member Marcia Love, who encouraged us fervently to present a film program, to IAYC Board Member Joseph Weissman, who suggested the film Shkheynim and agreed to lead this program, to IAYC Board Member Steve Lasky, whose virtual Museum of the Yiddish Theater gave registrants an early opportunity to learn about the film, to composer and musician Pisoy Korolenko, and to musicians Eleanor Weil and Ilya Schneeves for creating a musical tribute in honor of Joseph Weissman, who today is receiving the IAYC Yiddish Lifetime Achievement Award. Bravo. To the IAYC Board of Directors and to members of the IAYC Advisory Board for their support, to Asya Weissman-Schulman, Joseph's daughter, who lovingly has provided information about her father, and it is. Dr. Joseph Weissman is a computational biologist who uses artificial intelligence to study biological systems. Along with his dedication to his professional work, he has pursued a lifelong interest in Yiddish history and in Eastern European culture. His passion for Yiddish can be traced back to his childhood in Chernovitz, Ukraine, a city with a rich Yiddish cultural heritage and the site of the historic 1908 Yiddish-language conference. Growing up in a place where Yiddish was both a living language and a symbol of intellectual and cultural life left a lasting impression on him. In the early 1990s, Yosef and his wife, Shura of blessed memory, launched the virtual shtetl. It was the first major online website devoted to Yiddish culture. It was a key early contribution to Yiddish on the internet, and it featured a wide range of resources. It included digital books, articles, recipes, learning tools, art, and more. Around the same time, Yosef also served as a moderator of the Mendele Yiddish Listserv, an online forum for serious discussion and exchange on Yiddish language and culture for many years. His leadership extended into community organizations as well. He served as co-president of the International Association of Yiddish Clubs with Dr. Raphael Finkel. He delivered brilliant lectures about different aspects of Ashkenazi Yiddish, Jewish history and culture at several IAYC conferences. In the development and execution of the IAYC Boca Raton, Florida conference in November 2014, Yosef and Shura were invaluable. Following Shura's tragic passing in 2021, Yosef honored her legacy by organizing a highly successful IAYC conference that occurred online in February 2022. In addition to his continued role on the IAYC Board of Directors, Yosef also has served on the Board of Yiddish of Greater Washington, and he has presented lectures on Yiddish cultural topics at numerous conferences and festivals around the world. Yosef has succeeded in transmitting his dedication to Yiddish generations. Asya Weissman-Schulman is the director of the Yiddish Language Institute at the Yiddish Book Center in Amherst, Massachusetts. His granddaughter, Sina Schulman, is a native Yiddish speaker, and she is a performer in Yiddish theater. Through decades of research, writing, public engagement, and willingness to share his knowledge with others, Yosef has made and continues to make lasting contributions to Yiddish culture and scholarship. So it's a gross kavod to recognize Dr. Yosef Weissman and to present to him the 10th IAYC Lifetime Achievement Award. I'd like to read it. Der Allweltlicher Verband von Jiddisch Klubben in Anerkennung von sein Übergegebenheit zu der jiddischen Kultur und Sprache präsentiert Josef Weissman die 2025 lebenslange der Gerecht-Prämie. The International Association of Yiddish Clubs proudly presents Josef Weissman the IAYC 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of his tireless devotion to Yiddish culture and language.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. We also, IOIC board has a gift for Yosef. We have commissioned a song that means a lot to Yosef. I'm not sure. Oh, I see Soy Perfect. Before I hand it over to our composer, just a brief intro about him. Let me find the bio. All right. Soy Korolenko is a poet, singer, and songwriter, scholar, journalist, and musician from Moscow, Russia. He has written and performed countless songs, way too many to list here. And he is also he's helped the IOIC in presenting Yosef with a gift. So I take it away, and then we will play the little gift that we have for Yosef.
That's Jan. He's been having some difficulty getting on, Julia. If you might check.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, there he is.
Okay, all right. Thank you. See here?
Yeah, so feel free to say some words. So if you don't want to, that's also completely fine.
I just want to congratulate Yosef and thank him for cherishing Yiddish language and culture, and also for a lot of things that I personally knew from him. We've known each other for years, and it's such a big honor and joy and fun for me, for us, was to create a song based on a text that I've known from Yosef. Yosef, Yashar Koyach Mazel Tov. Congratulations. It's so good to be here and to be celebrating you.
Thank you, Payo.
All right. Great. I will now present the gift that we have for Yosef, and then we will continue with our program.
Dear Yosef, we thank you for nurturing the Yiddish language and culture, and we dedicate to you the premiere of a song based on this very important Yiddish text, one you sent to me 9 years ago just in case. So now the case has come, as meleb der Lepman, in a guter show, Mazel Tov, unot is das Lied, Mach mes vos, von Schinanskis Der Dibek. machmes vos, is die Neshome, vom höchster Heich herab in tiefsten Grund, von höchster Heich herab in tiefsten Grund. Machmes vos, is die Neshome, von höchster Heich herab in tiefsten Grund. Machmes vos, is die Neshome, von höchster Heich herab in tiefsten Grund. Das Fallen, trug das Aufkommen, das Fallen, trug das Aufkommen in sich.
Right. So, Yosef, I will send you a link to receive your gift, as well as send you your print certificate in the mail. But without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Yosef to lead today's program.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you, Barbara and the board. To say that I'm honored and humbled would be an understatement. I fully understand that there are so many people who deserve this award more than I do, and so I really appreciate this, and will try to live up to the award. Thank you so much to Zoe and Ilya and Eleanor for the song. I don't remember ever receiving so nice gifts, and so really appreciate it. So our topic of the discussion today is a movie, and Julia, can I share the screen?
You should be able to, but let me know if you can't.
Oh yeah, Yes, sorry. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So we will be talking about the movie, which is in original Polish called Piętro wyżej. It's the literal translation is one floor up. It has been translated into English as Neighbors, and it became known in Yiddish as Shkheynim. And this is an interesting movie, and I think it's fairly interesting background story around it. I would like to start from saying that interbellum Poland was somewhat of a powerhouse in popular art and entertainment. It was very well known definitely in Europe for its movies and popular songs and cabaret. And some of those works reached other countries, including United States. What is also interesting is that Poland had a very large Jewish population, but it was still a minority, a relatively small minority in the country. However, in the popular culture, Jews were not a minority. A very large number of artists in all genres, composers, poets, lyricists for the songs, film directors, actors, were Jewish. It is interesting and ironic that at the time, anti-Semitism was fairly rampant in Poland in many circles of society. However, somehow it did not prevent people who may have been more or less anti-Semitic to consume willingly and with enjoyment the cultural products produced by their Jewish neighbors. It is not a unique situation. We know many other examples like this, and even now we can frequently see that people who, let's say, for example, burn American flags, then right after those rallies go to the movie theaters to watch American movies or listen to American songs, and basically feeling big part of their cultural consumption by American products. So it was somewhat similar in Poland between the wars. And of course, it is important to remember that even though the anti-Semitism was prominent, it was not universal. And there were many people who lived, worked, were friends with their Jewish neighbors and colleagues. And we see some of the manifestation of this in this movie as well. The movie was filmed in 1937 by Leon Trystan, and it was released in January of 1937. You can see on the screen the newspaper announcement for the premiere in the movie theater Rialto in Warsaw. And it became immediate success. Was very warmly received by audiences in Poland. Was so here just a couple of additional advertisements, and you can see that there are multiple screens, multiple movie theaters where the movie is shown. And so it became fairly successful. Leon Trystan thought that there might be a good market for Polish movies in the United States. The movie was shown in New York first with English subtitles. It was not dubbed in English, and as a movie with subtitles, it did not have a very large success. One thing to remember is that it was still early age of sound movies. So people, it's not like people were not used to subtitles. All the silent movies, of course, had all the text in the subtitles. But perhaps in a sound movie with soundtrack in a language that people didn't understand, it was somewhat distracting, and so it didn't make a really significant impact. However, the critical reception was fairly positive. So this is a little column from New York Times in January 38, and you can see that actually, despite the fact I didn't show here the first paragraph of the column where it says that it is a very standard romantic comedy plot, but then the critic goes on to say that or to praise very good performance by all the leads in the movie, and particularly the critic notes the main female character, a girl named Lodzia, played by Helena Grosovna. And there is an interesting accent here on what the critics saw as an innovation. So it reads, Miss Grosovna's charm consists largely in being able to act like a real human being without resorting to obvious aids in her natural good looks. Something not so easy as it may sound. It is very interesting note, because at the time there was no consensus on what the movie should be. People were arguing. There were different schools of thought in cinematography, and an interesting part here is that the director of this movie, Leon Trystan, was not only a director, he was also, and actually primarily before he started making movies, he was a theoretician. He wrote articles about this new art form, and in particular, he was popularizing ideas of early French movie theoreticians like Louis Deluc and Jean Epstein, and Tristan's take on the movie success was what he called photogenicity. And his understanding of photogenicity was not just necessarily good looks, like the critic of New York Times alludes, but also ability to attract attention by appearance on the screen. And of course, since then we passed through many different eras of attitudes toward movie making and watching movies. But again, at that time, it was relatively new and fairly interesting on an attempt, in this case by Leon Trystan, to innovate, which was correctly understood in this case by the critics. The relative unsuccessful run of the version subtitled with English led Trystan to believe that it may be more beneficial in terms of marketing to try to address Jewish audience in the United States. In part because many of American Jews were originally from Poland, either they or their parents, in part because it was easier and perhaps less expensive to create a soundtrack in Yiddish than in English. So that's exactly what happened. Joseph Tunkel was commissioned to write a script for the Yiddish text. Several very good actors were hired to provide voiceover, and the movie was completely dubbed in Yiddish. That version became very successful. So we can see several listings from New York Times as well of the time, and we can see that the movie runs in different theaters. So in the upper listing, it's in Square. In the second one, which is already under revivals and second runs, it's in Ascot on South Houston Street. And so it was shown for fairly long run, which means that there was a sufficient interest from the viewers. It is very interesting that the same week when Neighbors were listed running at Ascot Theater, in Continental, not far away, Mamele with Molly Picon was shown. And what I find particularly interesting here, that in both cases, in case of Shkheynim, which is listed here as Neighbors, and Mamele, there is no indication that the movies are in Yiddish. So for the, it is hard to imagine that these days something or movie would be advertised without noting that this is in another language. I'm not sure whether it's still a result of the fact that in silent movies, which, and in 1938, we're just a few years away from silent movies. So in silent movies, it didn't really matter that much what was the language. So people didn't have this idea that they should indicate a language, or maybe it's demographics of New York City, where very large audience existed for movies in Yiddish. In any case, I found it Right, I'm using that we have those listings which include Yiddish movies without mentioning that they are in Yiddish. So here is a program, a copy of a program in the Asked Theater, where the Shkheynim ran. And so you can see that they advertised it as the first modern Yiddish talking picture. Now, it was certainly not the first Yiddish talking picture. So the key word here is modern. And what exactly did the people in marketing for ASCAT or for the producers, what did they mean by the first modern Yiddish talking picture? So there is an explanation inside the program. So this is the page of the same program. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can read what, and it is not like explicit explanation, but it is clearly that that's the message they want to deliver. It is the first modern Yiddish talking picture ever produced, containing none of the usual racial customs seen in former Yiddish films. So instead, it is portrayed by modern characters with a typically up-to-date story and background. Again, and from today, we can clearly see this message for what it is. It is not just a strong desire to assimilate, but it is an understanding that the assimilation is the only way forward, the only way to be what they call up to date. And so all the previous Yiddish movies, and of course, quite a few of them were more popular than Shkheynim. They were based on what is called in this little blurb racial customs. So they were showing traditional way of life. They were showing Yiddish milieu in which in this movie is absent. So and again, an interesting point here is that they feel necessity for the language. They would like to keep the language. That's why they're dubbing this movie into Yiddish, not into English. But the movie itself should be as far from quote unquote Jewish movie as possible. And the second part of the program provides a synopsis of the plot, and the plot is fairly simple. A landlord and his tenant live in the apartments in a building, and they are in many respects they're dissimilar. They represent different generations. The landlord is significantly older. The tenant is young. They have very different tastes in music, for example. They both like music. They both play music, but the landlord plays classical music. The tenant plays jazz. They both have amateur bands that come to their apartments to rehearse. And so the band of the landlord rehearse humoresque by Dvorak, while the band of his tenant rehearse things from Benny Goodman repertoire. And so there are multiple clashes between them because of the music, because of other generational issues, which all comes to a really interesting situation when a niece of the landlord comes to visit from a provincial town into Warsaw, where they live. It needs to be said that the landlord and his tenants shared the same last name. They were not related, but just happened to be both with the name Pachek. And so the niece, when she comes, is confused by the name on the door plate, and instead of entering her uncle's apartment, enters apartment of his tenant. Since it happened late at night, she just goes to bed and falls asleep. In a while, very drunk main character who works as a radio announcer comes back home after a party, finds a beautiful girl in his bed, cannot quite make sense of what is happening, and so a long line of slapstick events goes on, which makes for a very enjoyable movie. To finish with the program from Ask at Theater, we can see some quotes from newspapers, and what is very interesting here is that those selected quotes, maybe consciously, maybe with the idea to satisfy different audiences, look at very different aspects of the movie. So if we look on the right page, the first one from Daily News, kind of repeats of what they said about quote unquote modernity of the movie. So it says, Neighbors is one of the few Yiddish films to divorce itself from the traditional appeal of orthodoxy racial customs. But then we read another quote from World Telegram, and here the author says, these are greatly prized attributes in the Yiddish make-believe world, and the combination never has been more successful than here. So delightful as to remind one of Shalom Aleichem. So, and clearly it would be very difficult to reconcile those 2 points of view. So either it reminds of Shalom Aleichem, or as the other author said, it's completely opposite to Shalom Aleichem. And of course, the truth is somewhere in the middle. So what is also interesting here is that in making the original Polish movie, the creators didn't really think much about any potential Jewish aspects. And as I said before, there are no Jewish characters in the movie. By the way, it is very interesting that the movie takes place in Warsaw, where more than a third of the population were Jews. And by watching the movie, you would never be able to to tell this. I mean, there are no Jews or no visible Jews around there. However, when the movie was dubbed in Yiddish, and so it's just changing language. They didn't change anything in the visuals. It's exactly the same movie, just in a different language. The songs were translated as well. Well, all of a sudden, it became a Yiddish film. And here we see that those American critics, they don't even mention that it was originally Polish, that it was not created as Yiddish, which is a very very nice testament on the role the language plays in how we perceive things, how we perceive the world around us. And so it looks like a nice case study. I don't want to talk too much, so to leave the time for discussion, but I would like to talk about the crew of this movie. And so there are many interesting biographical details about the people who were involved. There is a little bit of confusion. So here we see an entry for this movie from Eric Goldman's filmography of Yiddish movies, which he compiled more than 40 years ago. And it says on the card that the screenplay is by Fetke and Snodek. Now, Jan Fetke was a very prolific Polish screenplay writer. He did write scripts for many movies, but as far as I can tell, he was not involved at all with this movie. So neither him nor Snodek, and actually Snodek does not really appear in the lists of Polish screenwrites at all. So there, I think it is an error here. It is hard to tell where it was made and by whom, but at some point somewhere the names of those people, Fetke and Snodek, were entered incorrectly. The actual screenwrites for the movie are Leon Trystan himself, the director, with significant participation of two of his long-term collaborators. So let's talk a little bit about some of those people. Leon Trystan was born in 1899. As I mentioned, he started as a film ideologue or theoretician. He published his papers on the methodology of movie making in the 1920s. As a very young man, he was 23, 24 when his first paper were published. He started directing movies in the 1930s. He worked closely with Joseph Green, one of the best Yiddish movie directors. Joseph Green asked him to complete a movie that Joseph Green started but could not finish, a brivele der Mamen, which Leon Trystan made around the same time when he made The Neighbors. He didn't make many movies, just 5 or 6 total. His real name, as you can see, was Chaim Leib Wagman. So Leon Trystan, Leon is the Polonized version of his name. Trystan is a pseudonym. When the war started in 1939, Trystan was able to flee to the eastern part of Poland, which was occupied by the Soviet Union. Actually, many of the crew and cast members of the movie ended up in Lvov, which in 1939 was occupied by the Soviet Union. So that's they moved there, escaping the Nazis in Warsaw, where they all lived before. Leon Trystan was actually able to find a job in a movie studio in Odessa, in the Soviet Union, as an assistant director, which was real luck. I mean, many of those Polish refugees were not able to get a job for many reasons. They were not considered politically reliable by the Soviet authorities. For many, there was a language barrier. Leon started working on Odessa movie studio as an assistant director in the summer of 1941, when Germans invaded Soviet Union. He was evacuated with others in this movie studio from Odessa by sea, and the ship was torpedoed by Germans, and so everybody on board died. The date of his death is not known exactly, but from the information that is available, I was able to identify the ship he was on, and if it's true, then he died on July 27 of 1941. Another kind of poignant piece of information that there is no known photo of him, and which is kind of surprising for someone in the movie business. But yeah, many archives did not survive, and so we don't have a picture. His co-author in the script for the movie was Emanuel Schlechter, screenwriter, playwright, poet, lyricist, very talented man. He was a little bit younger when the movie was made. He was 33. He wrote the lyrics for the 2 hits of this movie, Sex Appeal and I Have a Date at 9. And those songs, as well as many other songs for which he wrote lyrics, are known till this day. Emanuel Schlechter, as well as others, went to Lvov in 1939. German army caught with him there. The Lvov was occupied, and in the summer of 1941, Schlechter and his family, his wife and young children, were placed in Yanovsky camp in Lvov, where they died in according to some sources, in November of 1943. However, it is possible that the date is not precise, and they actually died earlier. The third screenwriter, Ludwig Starsky, whose real name is Kaluzhner, also worked with both Trystan and Schlechter on many other movies. He survived the war and remained actually active in Polish cinematography after the war until his passing in the 1980s. There is a lot of great music in the movie. The composer, Henry Wars, the real name Warshawski. You can see from the dates that they were all of about the same age. Henry Wars is one of the best known Polish movie composers and popular song composers. He wrote great many hits, and his fate was also better than for others. He joined Polish army in the Soviet Union, the so-called Anders Army, in the 1942. In this picture, you can see him in the uniform of the Polish army. He served in with the Anders Army in the Middle East, in Egypt and Palestine during the war. And after the war, he moved to the United States, where he wrote music to a large number of Hollywood movies, particularly westerns that were made in the 1950s, as well as also quite a few popular songs. Again, some of them are quite well known till this day. The cinematographer, Severin Steinwurzel, was able to escape, was in the Anders Army as well. After the war, lived in South America, in Argentina and Brazil, and then moved to Israel in the late 1960s or early 70s, where he died in 1983. Eugeniusz Bodo, the main lead character, probably the most popular Polish actor of the 1930s, played in virtually all significant Polish movies of the time, was incredibly popular. Moved to Lvov in 1939 together with Emanuel Schlechter, who was not just his co-worker but his close friend. They created a jazz theater, performed in Russian. They were able to switch to Russian relatively easily. Enjoyed significant popularity for 2 years before the Germans invaded. The fate of Eugeniusz Bodo was also tragic, not because of Nazis. He was not Jewish, but because when the war started, he was arrested by the Soviet authorities. It is really incredible story. German army was approaching Lvov. The situation was chaotic. Nevertheless, the NKVD, the secret police, wanted to arrest him. They didn't really control the city anymore. So they approached him and told him that they would like to help him to evacuate because he is a prominent actor. So he went into the car with them. They took him to the central Russia, where he was promptly arrested and died within several weeks from the time of death of his friend Emanuel Schlechter in the concentration camp in Lvov. Ironically, had he stayed in Lvov, he probably would survive, because since he was not Jewish, Germans would not prosecute him. And finally, the female lead, Helena Grosovna, was also very, very popular and very good actress. You can see if you watched the movie. She survived the war. She was in the resistance in Warsaw during the war, and she passed away in 1994. One very interesting detail, if we go back to the posters and advertisements, you can see that in all Polish advertisements, Evgeny Shboda is listed as the main lead, which he was. I mean, his is the main role, and you can see that his name is in different font size. Like in this poster, it's in all, or this advertisement, it's in all capitals. Here, it's even in different color. But if we look at the American listings in New York Times, they list Helen Gross this as an attraction, and so it's there are several possible reasons. I cannot tell exactly why, but apparently the marketing and PR people in the United States realized by that time that it is easier to sell actresses than actors for the audiences, and not if you look at the list, it is not true for all the movies, but for many it is. And to finish with the description, I would like to mention several cultural references. So when the movie was made, the creators got into litigation with the author of Polish operetta that was written a little bit earlier and had almost exactly the same title. So he, the author of the operetta, claimed copyright infringement, and so they were able to settle for a not very significant sum of money. They paid, I think, 2,000 zlotys to this composer to resolve the case. But during the court hearings, it turned out that the original title for the movie was Pacek versus Pacek. So Pacek is, of course, the last name of both protagonists. And so you may remember that about 40 years later, there was another movie, Kramer versus Kramer, with kind of similar, not a similar plot, but definitely similar title. Another very interesting story that for whatever reasons was never described or even mentioned in the literature. In the mid-1970s, in 1976, a Soviet movie called The Irony of Fate was made, and it became the major blockbuster. Some people claim that this is the most popular movie in the history of the Soviet cinematography. The Irony of Fate takes the general idea of the plot from Shkheynim, but also, in addition to the plot, they borrowed a number of details. So here is just one illustration. There are literally dozens and dozens. When drunk Evgeny Shbodo comes home and finds a pretty girl in his bed, he, in order to make sense of it, goes in his black tie and suit in the shower, and takes a shower in the suit. So in the Soviet movie, and in the Soviet movie, there is a somewhat definitely similar plot. The protagonist goes to the wrong apartment, and so in the picture you can see that in his winter coat and hat he takes a shower. There are many other parallels. My hypothesis is that the creators of the Soviet movie wanted to pay homage to the Polish creators. They could not do it openly. The Neighbors was not on the list of movies permitted by censors in the Soviet Union, so they did it in a kind of subtle, or maybe not so subtle way, and so this is kind of a second life of the plot and the characters. I thought that probably it would be a good idea not to discuss the plot of the movie itself, but rather, or maybe do it in an interactive format. So I will stop now, and if you have any questions or comments or considerations that you would like to share, let's do it in an interactive way. And you can use chat or unmute yourself. And so the only thing I would like to mention is that we should try to keep oral comments relatively short so that more people have a chance to participate. Barbara, yes. Oh, you are muted, Barbara.
Lots of questions, but one is, was there any effort, as there was with regard to European Jewish actors on the part of Marlene Dietrich and Billy Wilder, I believe, too? And we see the cameos of some of those actors in Casablanca. Was there any effort? Pardon me? Was there any effort to rescue people in the Polish film industry at all, and perhaps some Jewish collaborators? Was there anything known about that kind of a thing?
Not on any large scale. It was virtually impossible to do anything in that part of Europe. So there were efforts in France, for example, where so nominally there was a government, an independent government on the big portion of France. So even though it was subservient to Germans, but something could have been done, not in Poland or Soviet Union. So some people, and even from the cast, some people survived. Ludwik Starsky, who stayed in Poland, he was in ghetto in Warsaw, and in the beginning, when ghetto was sort of reasonably, I mean, it was bad from the beginning, but in the first year or so, they had cultural facilities. So he worked in a theater in the ghetto. But then, of course, it was getting progressively worse, and he was able to leave ghetto and went into hiding and so that's how he survived. In the those actors and other film people who fled to the Soviet Union, if they were not prosecuted, like Evgeny Shboda, who was actually, I mean, he wasn't killed, he died from typhus in the camp, but very few people in that camp survived. So it was sort of death sentence for him. But for those who were not prosecuted, they did survive the war. They went through very difficult time. Several actors died from hunger in the Central Asia, simply because, I mean, they didn't have work. The food was rationed, so only people who worked were getting ration cards. So they, but if those who managed to find some jobs, and for the most part, those were not jobs in the movie industry. They survived, and many of them went either to other countries or back to Poland after the war. But there was no organized effort from other places, and again, the reason is that, well, I mean, there were no venues for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Janice?
Yeah, this is just trivia, really, but I was wondering if the composer, Henry Vars, was at all distantly related to Mark Warszawski.
No.
Common name, because everybody from Warsaw was a Warszawski.
Fairly common name, yes, no. Well, as far as I know, and I think as far as they knew, they were not related. But so Mark Warszawski actually was born in Kiev.
Oh, I thought he was born in Odessa and moved to Kiev.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Professor, may I mention something about a couple of technical elements?
Sure.
Yeah, this is Alan Lewis Rickman speaking. Thank you for the research. I love the backstories on all the people involved. Very, very commonly you run into when people who do not see a lot of older films see something like this. They assume that the things that they're seeing, how the bad print quality, this and that, because it's an old movie. This is clearly a very well produced movie by a world class cinema industry in Poland. What's really interesting is most of it you could see as sets, but you look at there's a little bit of exterior shooting. I always find that very interesting when you see period movies and see what the streets are like. There's that one moment when the guy is walking down the street and crowds are following him. That's clearly location stuff, which is you see the real Warsaw for a minute or so. It's quite nice. But the particular thing I particularly wanted to mention was the synchronization. This is one of the things I do for a living. They did a very good job that we don't see, that it's hard to tell in this print, of synchronizing the Yiddish dialogue to the original. In this print, it looks very off sync, but when I was watching it, I played with the program, and when you fix the sync for 2 seconds, move it up a half a second or back a half a second, then for the next 10 minutes it's perfect. And it's a very difficult thing to do, which they did when they were writing the translation into Yiddish. They wrote the translation to Yiddish to match the lip movements of the original Polish dialogue. And the actors worked on matching their line readings to the Yiddish actors to match their line readings to the original Polish. They did a very good job. It doesn't come through in this print, unfortunately, because the print is really terrible. It's probably all we have nowadays. I mean, it's not only a copy of a copy of a copy reduced to 16 millimeter, and it's very splicey, and there's other problems with it, and the transfer's not great. But if you know how to see it, they clearly did a very slick and very professional job of the dubbing. It's really kind of impressive.
Thank you, Alan. This is a very important comment, and it is absolutely true. I would like to say that there was a school of dubbing in exactly the way you described in Poland, as well as in some other European countries. I don't think it was ever was particularly widespread in the United States, but in Poland and Russia, as a matter of fact, yes, that's exactly the case. They were adjusting the translated text to the lip movements. So and if you watch a good copy, yeah, that looks like it was produced in that language.
Other quick note also for anybody who was depending on the English subtitles, it looks to me, and tell me what you think, Professor, like the English subtitles were written for the English language release of the Polish movie, and that the Yiddish dubbing was done afterwards, and they just reused the original English titles.
I think so, yes. Because
and the question I have is, do you have any idea whether the dubbing was done in Poland or here? Who did it? I'm guessing Poland because it's that good.
Well, so Menashe Oppenheim, who talks for Eugeniusz Bodo, I believe he lived in New York at the time.
There's the answer.
So now it is possible that he went to Poland for this gig. So I don't know where the facility were, but it well maybe that it was in Poland. One of the reasons is that it was much cheaper to do those things in Poland than in the United States.
Makes sense.
But some people who did it lived in the United States at the time. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who any of the other voices are?
Yes, the Herschel Pompek, and I couldn't find a lot of information on him, but so he did he voiced Hippolyte, the landlord, the older guy, and I don't think I know others.
Thank you.
Hi, I just want to follow up on that. This is Eve Sickler. I'm not looking at Menashe Oppenheim's entire bio right now, and he might have gone back and forth in the late 30s, but he definitely was in Poland to film Mamele, for Joseph Green. That was released in 1938. So I don't think he was certainly not permanently living in the US when Shkheynim was being overdubbed, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, it kind of fits into this general idea that most likely it was done in Poland. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll make one other remark for people that are not familiar with this about the subtitles, because this is again something I have done a great deal of. The subtitles, if you depend on the subtitles, they're obviously the original subtitles from 1938, and they're very, very spare. And if you look at any of the prints of the old Yiddish movies or old Italian movies or French movies, if you look at prints that go back to that era that were subtitled for export, the subtitles tend to be very, very, very spare. One line in every 10 was translated. And it seems that the theory was people should be able to watch the movie, just give them enough to follow the story, just give them enough translation to follow the story, and for the rest, let them look at what's on screen. We don't do it nowadays like that anymore. Nowadays, we make subtitles and translate everything completely, but that's the way it was done then. So if you're wondering why the subtitles were so few, that was the standard then.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, that's a great comment. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I would like to thank you everyone for coming to the event, and I don't know if you liked it or not, by judging by numbers and judging by the fact that many people or most people are actually still here after almost an hour and a half. I think that IYC may want to continue along those lines, and we'll have more discussions, not necessarily just about movies, but perhaps other works of art that are related to Yiddish. I would like to thank again very much the board of IYC for the honor, Psoy, Ilya, and Eleanor for the wonderful song. I do feel a little bit like an imposter. Well, maybe not a little bit, but yes, as I said, it's really a great honor, and many people should rightly share it with me. People who influenced me over many years, and people who are worked with on various Yiddish projects, and so thank you everybody, and I hope to see you all on the many other happy occasions. Shkheynim Dank.